The fifth age iPad Air is here, and keeping in mind that it might look close and indistinguishable from its ancestor, there are key overhauls inside that make it a greater amount of an iPad Pro contender than any time in recent memory. Donning key redesigns including Apple's work area-centered M1 chipset, 5G network and Apple's center stage camera tech, with such countless likenesses among it and the iPad Pro 11. Is the iPad Air the perfect balance in Apple's tablet assortment, while it's noticeably flawed? There's a great deal to cherish about the current year's iPad Air. As long as it doesn't squeak, plan and fabricate, the vibe of the iPad Air is quickly unmistakable. Donning similar by and large plan as the iPad smaller than usual. iPad Pro and late models of iPhone, not at all like prior models. It has precise corners, yet it doesn't feel awkward to hold in the hand. As a matter of fact, in general form quality feels top-notch. Wearing an anodized aluminum body that feels smooth to the touch, it's genuinely lightweight for a 10/9 and tablet as well, tipping the scales at 469 grams. And estimating it at a great 6.1 millimeters thick. It's accessible in 5 variety choices, with 4, space gray, starlight, pink, and purple, matching the completions of the most recent iPad smaller than normal. The blue variety choice, then again, is an absolutely new variety restrictive to the iPad Air. And the one we got sent for survey, you'll find volume rockers on the upper left in representation direction. That change usefulness relying upon how the tablet, that implies that as opposed to the volume up key being at the base when held topsy-turvy, it'll be the volume down button as you would anticipate. It initially showed up on the iPad scaled down. And keeping in mind that it's anything but a unique advantage, a decent little touch makes regular utilize somewhat more straightforward in different regions. It's the same old thing, donning an underlying Touch ID sensor inside the power button. And there are sound system speakers mounted on inverse sides, that is flanked by a USB-C port on the base with further developed information move speeds. Yet to a greater degree toward that later, one of the vital contrasts between the iPad Little and iPad Air is extra help. Both help the second-gen Apple Pencil, which attractively appends to the side of the tablet. However, just the iPad Air has the smart connector on the back in similarity with the Magic Keyboard, FlexGate, assuming there's one grumbling I have about the iPad Air test I've been furnished with. It's the unbending nature of the backplate. However, there's no distinction in aspects contrasted with different models of iPad Air. The example accommodated survey has a recognizable flex on the back, to such an extent that I can feel the parts contact the plate under with next to no tension applied. I notice it while dealing with the iPad every day. And it's something that a modest bunch of iPad Air proprietors have gotten on since send-off. On the other side, I've utilized different examples of the 5th gen iPad Air that don't have this issue by any means. It appears to be connected with a specific bunch of Apple's most recent tablet show, while the iPad Air draws nearer to the iPad Pro 11 than any time in recent memory. There stays one particular contrast: the showcase. I'm not discussing the simple 0-1 in distinction between the 10/9 in iPad Air and 11 in iPad Pro by the same token. As a matter of fact, you'll track down similar 2360x1640 goal and 264 ppi pixel thickness as the same iPad Pro, yet it's feeling the loss of the exceptional sauce of Apple's Pro Reach, ProMotion versatile revive rate innovation, giving rich smooth execution at up to 120 Hz. The iPad Air, similar to the remainder of the standard iPad assortment, is restricted to a standard 60 Hz. The outcome is that games and applications aren't exactly really smooth. Yet that is genuinely standard for everything except the most superior tablets available. Saying this doesn't imply that there's a disheartening review insight on offer from the tablet, however. I viewed the iPad Air show as brilliant, definite and clear whether gaming, watching motion pictures on Netflix, or basically composing messages. Highlights and execution. Macintosh has planned the 5th gen iPad Air for understudies, creatives and gamers, all of which need the absolute best exhibition readily available. Considering that Apple chose to change the iPad Air line from the A-series chipsets utilized in the iPhone to the M-series chipsets utilized in Apple's iPad Pro and Work Area Mac lineup, all the more explicitly. The iPad Air includes a similar Apple M1 chipset as the top-end iPad Pro Reach. However, Mac Work Areas including the MacBook Air, Mac Mini and 24 in iMac With 8 GB of RAM and 64 divided by 256 GB of stockpiling to play with, Apple guarantees that this addresses a 60% lift to the CPU and up to 2x execution in the designs division. And that is to a great extent upheld by our benchmark results. Camera. While cameras on tablets for the most part aren't generally so fascinating as their cell phone brethren, Apple has redesigned the forward-looking camera on the iPad Air 5 to match the remainder of the iPad range. That implies the most recent iPad Air sports a 12MP super wide forward-looking camera, settling on it a brilliant decision for bunch selfies. However, that wasn't the fundamental purpose for the redesign, all things being equal. It was to work with Apple's center stage innovation, which makes video calling, a famous element on tablets, a lot simpler. Battery duration and charging. Battery duration stays steady notwithstanding the increase in execution, with Apple's asserted 10-hour battery duration sounding valid in ordinary execution. While that doesn't sound that long, more easygoing clients can extend that utilization across numerous days. I unquestionably didn't want to top up the iPad Air consistently like my iPhone. There's likewise quick charging support on offer that will assist with diminishing how much time you spend trusting that the iPad will recapture charge. It'll acknowledge a limit of 20 W of force. Yet dissimilar to the iPhone, you'll get a 20 W charger in the container. Don't bother forking out for extra chargers here. Utilizing Apple's 20 W charger, you can anticipate 25% charge shortly. It's not exactly as quick as some cell phones. Yet taking into account Samsung's top-end Galaxy Tab S8 Ultra oversaw 29% shortly, the quickest in our tests to date. It's genuinely quick for a tablet. Programming. The iPad Air ships with iPadOS 15.4 out of the container, Apple's most recent variant of its tablet improved working framework. While there have been steps on the Android side of things of late with the notice of Android 12 leaders for big screen tablets, Apple's iPadOS is still easily the most competent and most clean tablet OS that anyone could hope to find in 2022. The fundamental strength of iPadOS is the gigantic library of applications and games accessible from Apple's App Store, and not at all like Android matches that can utilize increased versatile applications. All iPad applications are improved for the big screen. That implies you'll get a superior involvement with applications, capitalizing on the screen space accessible with UI changes and different highlights. There's additionally a superior scope of applications accessible for creatives and video editors with supportive level applications like Procreate and LumaFusion Pro accessible to download. There are likewise performing various tasks includes that let you run numerous applications on screen simultaneously, complete with simplified usefulness, and new elements in iPad Anyplace OS 15 permit you to rapidly take notes from any place on the iPad. Empowers the capacity to reorder text from photographs inside your Photos application and significantly more. Basically, it's a flexible piece of programming with incredible application accessibility and an elevated degree of cleanliness. There's a motivation behind why iPads have been so famous for quite a long time, all things considered. Finally, thanks for watching my videos. Goodbye, see you next time.